like, hi everyone, I'm live on Facebook now. Do you see me now? It says it's starting. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Glennie. I'm not sure whether I'm live on Facebook. I may be there. It could be. I'm telling you, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan. I'm not even getting my name right today because the technology is just all over the place this morning. I'm Hank Philippi Ryan, and this is episode 69 of First Chapter Fun. And the comments on, if you're on Facebook, hey Jen, hey Maureen, I'm so glad to see you all this morning. Um, I'm laughing because I have no idea what Facebook is doing. I see that some people are on Facebook right now, and if you could put up a comment so I know you're here. I see you, Diane and Jen and Maureen. Um, and waving back at you on Instagram. Shannon, thank you. So I guess I am live on Facebook. Well, never a dull moment here on First Chapter Fun. You have found me. Facebook has finally found me. Instagram has finally found me. I'm Hank Philippi Ryan, juggling and balancing here on Instagram and live here on Facebook, as well as the technology battles me at every turn. But we, the humans, will persevere, won't we? Hi, Pat. Hi, Kristen. We're going to be reading from Kristen Bear O'Keefe's hilarious new novel in a couple of months, so you won't want to miss that. Allie and Shannon and Michelle and AR Mommy. And Al Pessin will be reading from your book as well in a couple of weeks. So I'm glad to see you all here this morning. You have persevered as I have, trying to make Instagram work and Facebook work. We are all here for another wonderful chapter of a wonderful book on First Chapter Fun. And today we'll be reading from Jessica Strawser's animated, I guess you can see the animated version of this book, Forget You Know Me, which again, we're fighting the Instagram and Facebook glare to get you to see this wonderful cover. This is, it's a wonderful book. People have called it sort of a hybrid of women's fiction and suspense. So that is truly a wonderful combination. So how are you all this morning? I hope you are faring well. At our house, here in Boston, there is a lot of excitement over the green beans that are now coming up in our first ever vegetable garden. So we are so proud of those. I think we have two now. I think we have two green beans now. So we're going to have a big feast of green beans at some point. But we're so excited about that. And we have tomatoes, little baby tomatoes, those little cherry tomatoes that are now turning red now. So do you have gardens? Are you gardening at all? Flowers? I know Grace, who is often here, has a wonderful garden on her balcony in Canada, and a lot of people are growing vegetables now. Julie Dalton is here, and we'll be reading from her book that comes out. Waiting for the Night Song, which you heard it here on First Chapter Fun first. You will absolutely love that book. Hannah's saying you're such a great gardener. No, no, no. My gardening consists of going out to the little pots and saying, ooh, look at that, a green bean. How does that happen? And I think I actually saw a cucumber on our cucumber plant, which is completely going crazy. You know, it's kind of interesting. And then I promise I will get to Jessica Strawser's Forget You Know Me. I'm kind of stalling here, can you tell? Because Jessica might be having internet issues at her house in Ohio. And I am trying to give her a little bit of time to see if she can make that work. But of course, as we know about the internet, forget about it. We're not in control of that in any way. So the cucumbers are going crazy, and it makes me think that I understand where fairy tales came from, where Jack and the Beanstalk came from. Our cucumber is so magical and so full of energy, and the tendrils go around the trellis with such strength and determination that you could almost think that they were actually real. And now you're like, what is she talking about? You know, what is she talking about? Michelle says it's a great hobby, gardening. And Beth says, I wish I could, but stuck inside. Nothing better than fresh green beans. Well, we will soon find out, because I think we're going to have at least two, if we can win the struggle with the creatures. I know that there are chipmunks and squirrels and all kinds of bunnies ready to pounce on those green beans and ready to pounce on those tomatoes. So Kristen saying we have 4 tomatoes, equally excited. I know, isn't that crazy? I feel like I'm a mom. Hi, Sharon During. She is here too, and we have read from her as well. So we are now gathering here, and I'm so happy to see you all. Good morning, Carla on Facebook and Sharon on Instagram. And Emily says tomatoes are growing nicely here in central Pennsylvania. So I love this. You know, books bring us together, and our gardens maybe bring us together, or our lack of gardens. So maybe you can email me and tell me some ways to keep the bunnies away from the lettuce. If you can figure that out, happily so. I mean, you kind of see why Beatrice Potter wrote Peter Rabbit, you know, about those rabbits that are ravaging the lettuce patch. All these stories make sense now. Speaking of stories, I'm so sorry. Pat on Facebook is saying, for the benefit of you on Instagram, I will repeat it. Pat is saying, I knew someone who bought green beans at the store, then tied them to the plants in her garden so her neighbors could see them. I mean, that is somebody who doesn't have enough time. You know, that's like my ex-boyfriend's ex-girlfriend who used to make frozen spinach souffle from Stouffer's and then throw away the box and say that she had made it from scratch. There are all kinds of things we do, right? There are all kinds of things we do. And yes, oh, Elizabeth, cherry tomatoes and thrown on a plate of pasta. You all are making me hungry. But we are also hungry for a new book, aren't we, today? So again, I'm Hank Philip Urian. This is First Chapter Fun, where every Tuesday and Thursday of every week, right here at 11:30 a.m. EST, my darling sister in crime, Hannah Mary McKinnon, who for the 5th week in a row has made the Canadian fiction bestseller list with her wonderful book, Sister Dear. And if we can all just give some waves and claps for Hannah Mary McKinnon's 5th week on the Canadian bestseller list, which is pretty darn fabulous for Sister Dear. I know you have all read it, but have you told a friend about it? Have you spread the word about it? It's, you know, I have to say, and I promise you I'll get to the book, but I have to say that one of the reasons Hannah, I know, is so grateful to all of you for making this, helping make this bestseller list happen. It is really because of devoted readers and authors like all of you who help make this happen. It's such a community, and even in this, especially in this ridiculous time that we're having right now, it really makes so much difference to all of us authors. And you've met so many of them. Look at the list here on Instagram and here on Facebook of authors. Bonner Spring says she has wild arugula in the backyard. I mean, that's really cool. I'm watching a cucumber grow. We're watching a cucumber grow, and we're watching Hannah Mary McKinnon's, here, how's that for a transition? And watching Hannah Mary McKinnon's Sister Dear just hang on that bestseller chart at like number 4. Are you now, Hannah? It's just awesome. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. Anyway, this week, today, I am reading from Jessica Strawser's fabulous women's fiction suspense, Forget You Know Me. And this first chapter is absolutely amazingly terrific, so wait till you hear it. Let me tell you a little bit about Jessica Strawser. You know what happens if Facebook boots us out, if Instagram boots us out, if Facebook boots us out. I'll just come back and read it live again, and you can see all previous 68 videos in our archives right here on IGTV and here on Facebook in our videos. You can read them all or listen to them all. Hannah and I have read so many fabulous books, and we have so many more wonderful ones to come. We just cannot wait to share them with you. So let me tell you a little bit about Jessica Strawser. Jessica Strawser, who I hope whose internet issues are clearing up. Jessica Strawser is editor-at-large at Writer's Digest, where she served as editorial director for nearly a decade and became known for her in-depth cover interviews with such luminaries as David Sedaris, Alice Walker, David Baldacci, and Lisa C. She is the author of book club favorites Almost Missed You, a Barnes & Noble new fiction pick, Not That I Could Tell, a Book of the Month Club bestseller, and her latest, Forget You Know Me, which is wonderfully now in paperback, all from St. Martin's. And we will be reading here today with their permission, St. Martin's permission, and with Jessica's permission, of course. She lives with her husband and 2 young children in Cincinnati, Ohio, and is a popular speaker at reading groups and writing conferences coast to coast. She is also a member of the fabulous blog, which I am too, called Career Authors, careerauthors.com. So if you are a writer and want to make a career as an author, I urge you, not right now, when we're done, I urge you to go and check out the Career Authors Facebook page and the Career Authors blog for absolutely everything you needed to know about how to write a book, how to get published, all those kinds of things, all those questions that you wish you knew the answer to. Jessica and I are part of that blog. Anyway, her 4th novel, A Million Reasons Why, is coming in April 2021, and you will see on the fabulous cover a blurb from Jodi Picoult. So that is the kind of book that Jessica writes, like Jodi Picoult. And Jodi herself is giving her stamp of approval, so you can't do better than that. So now we'll talk about Forget You Know Me. We're going to be reading from Forget You Know Me today, which Publishers Weekly called masterful. And let me tell you a little bit about it. A video call between friends captures a shocking incident no one was supposed to see. The secrets it exposes threaten to change their lives forever. Molly and Liza have always been enviably close. Even after Molly married Daniel, the couple considered Liza an honorary family member. But after Liza moved away, things grew more strained than anyone wanted to admit, the friendship and the marriage. While Daniel goes away on business, Molly and Liza plan to reconnect with a nice long video call chat after the kids are in bed. But then Molly leaves the room to check on a crying child. What Liza sees next will change everything. Only one thing is certain. Molly needs her. Molly needs her. Molly needs her. Liza drives all night to be at Molly's side, but when she arrives, the reception is icy, leaving Liza baffled and hurt. She knows there's no denying what she saw. Or is there? In disbelief that their friendship could really be over, Liza is unaware she's about to have a near miss of her own, and Molly, refusing to deal with what happened, won't turn to Daniel either. But none of them can go on pretending. Not after this. Forget You Know Me is a twisty, emotionally complex powder keg of a tale, so says Emily Carpenter, about the wounds of people who've grown apart. Best friends separated by miles, spouses hardened by neglect, a mother isolated by pain. One moment will change things for them all. And you will hear a little bit about that today. What did she see? Hannah Marion McKinnon says, well, I don't know. I can't tell you. I do know, but I can't tell you. And we will hear the first chapter now. So are you ready for a little bit? Hey, Tracy Clark, how are you? Who would think a video call would be so dramatic? Yeah, did you see the video I made for this book? Hannah and I promised that we will never use video again, but that's not true, not really. I hope you're watching those videos. They're really, really fun to make, so please go through and check them out. So Tracy, I'm going to put my glasses on for this tiny, tiny print. And here is, okay, are you ready? Are you comfy? Are you ready to hear this? Hank, pick your doors before you start. Pick your doors before you start. Okay, I don't know what that means. Lock your doors before you start. Yes, okay, thank you. I'm so glad somebody else makes a typo. Somebody was saying the other day that their daughter had written, it's a long way to Tipperary, and that the autocorrect had changed it to, it's a long way to Tupperware. So there you go. Anyway, let's do it, Tracy says, and you are right. Forget You Know Me, Chapter 1. Liza could tell right away that Molly's smile was fake, and not fake in that courageous way that tired moms of young children sometimes muster a grin either. That Liza would have understood, even empathized with. This was that ultra-polite, too bright sort of smile on cue, reserved for less than welcome social situations. The corners of her mouth pulled up too stiffly, and the rest of her face forgot to match the purported emotion behind it. Liza squinted into the flat screen of her laptop, hoping it was maybe just the awkward angle of the webcam or the dim light in Molly's living room, where her friend sat in a halo of yellow lamplight on a ridiculously suburban-looking plaid sectional a few hundred miles away. But no, Liza could read Molly's face with the undisputable clarity that came with years, most of a lifetime really, of familiarity, even as she numbly lifted her own hand in a half-hearted wave. "We finally did it," Molly said in a tone that matched her cringe-worthy smile. "Girls' night." After a long stretch of "we should really," and maybe after the kids are in bed, and other overtures they both tried to pretend were not empty, one of them had at last called the other's bluff, and here they were, set to catch up with more than an offhand text, their first real chat in who knows how long. Well, Liza knew how long, but she wouldn't admit to keeping score. "Girls' night," Liza agreed. She was already wondering and simultaneously chastising herself for wondering why they'd bothered. And not just because girls' night was no rarity for her, though she was usually the only one taking part. She missed Molly. Really, she did. It was just that the woman currently lifting her glass of red wine in a virtual cheers was not the Molly she missed. The image on Liza's monitor was Molly 2.0. The version you eventually have no choice but to upgrade to, but then can't figure out how to navigate. "Tell me everything," Molly said with a mischievous shimmy of her shoulders. There she was, the old version, just for an instant. "Start with the Canadian." Liza took a long sip of her own wine, then tipped her glass toward her friends in the air. "No can do on the Canadian. He was deported." "What? Why?" "Long story, but," she said gently, "not one worth telling. And that was like 3 guys ago." "Girl, you worked fast." Molly's eyes lit up. Liza knew the drill, that her married friends liked to live vicariously through her dating escapades. It wasn't their fault. She'd painted them into the role by having so many story-worthy nights in the first place, and by embellishing her retellings with such gusto. Being the lone scout out on the hunt, sending missives to her fellow soldiers at the base camp had been fun for a long while, but then she'd grown tired of giving the play-by-play, which was when she'd also realized she was tired of living the play-by-play. "Not that fast, it's been months." Molly's face fell. Liza had broken the unspoken rule of not acknowledging how disconnected they become, how little they'd come to know about each other's daily lives. In junior high, they'd elaborated on a whole playlist's worth of alternate lyrics to favorite pop songs. In college, they'd held back hair over porcelain basins, mopped up tears with cheap liquor and late-night pizza, giggled their way through General Hospital, sprawled on the shabby carpet of their living room. They'd gone on to help each other learn to, well, adult, even sharing a family data plan to make their cell phone bills manageable. That they would ever have to fill in each other on months of life at once, let alone reach for something to talk about, was unthinkable then, laughable. Liza should never have moved to take the job here. Chicago still seemed out of reach, even though she was right in the middle of it. "Oh God," Molly moaned, "it's really been that long? I'm officially the worst friend ever. Too busy competing for my Mother of the Year award in the frozen waffles for dinner category." "That's the best category. Kids love that category." Being Mother of the Year isn't about doing things kids like. It's more of a competition in legal forms of torture, like those vegetable medleys that are all broccoli stalks and no florets. They both laughed, but Molly's didn't last long. She pulled a face. "Liza, I really am sorry." "Don't be. It's better to stick with the highlight reel anyway, of which, brace yourself, there are currently no highlights. I'm taking a break." "A break?" She looked so confused. Liza's fears were confirmed. This hiatus, by very nature of being unthinkable, was long overdue. "From sex, you mean? Not from dating." "From everything." Liza held up her empty hands as if to display proof. "I've got nothing, and by choice." "Well, it was by choice if you didn't count the years of failed efforts preceding this period." Molly perked up. Don't you know my husband is away on business? This call is meant to take the place of the rom-coms I binge when he's gone. What now? I know. How's Max? Liza couldn't help but smile. Maximizing his maxiness, as usual. How telling, in retrospect, that she'd met her closest friend here through indiscriminate dating, the very thing she'd pledged to do less of in order to seek more friends. If Liza were to leave Chicago, Max would be the only person to truly miss her. Molly had sighed. I still think he'd be a perfect match for you, if only. Kind of a big if only. Liza wasn't about to beguile Molly with colorful new Max tales, though she had a whole rainbow of them. She liked to keep them to herself, in part because she knew how well Molly remembered both the promise and disappointment of their sole date. She and Max had met over a slow, talkative dinner in the kind of middle-of-the-road restaurant that could be surprisingly satisfying under the right circumstances. And Liza had already been thinking ahead to what might come next when she excused herself to freshen up while waiting for the check. If the ladies' room line hadn't been so long she decided to skip it, she might not have returned to find Max in intimate conversation with their waiter, their red-faced, furious male waiter, who was demanding to know why Max had not returned his calls. Knowing any second Max would turn to see her, Liza had stood stricken as the server stormed off. Part of her wanted to slink away, but she couldn't summon the politeness not to confront what she'd witnessed. All she could think of was, damn, I liked you. The date wasn't just going well. She hadn't had this much fun talking to anyone since she moved here. Max did turn then, and he looked just as caught as she feared he would. For a glimmer of a second, she almost dared hope that it wasn't what it looked like. So you date guys too? She asked quietly. No, he said. I mean, not anymore. I've seen my share of scorned exes, she replied, and that one seemed fresh. Recent, I mean. Max had averted his eyes. It had just been a phase, he said. He was straight, definitely straight, he said, but he looked cornered, trapped, and her instinct, her own feelings aside, was to reach in and free him. Look, she said, thinking fast. She really did want to see him again. I was working out how to tell you. I had lots of fun tonight, but I'm not feeling the chemistry beyond a friendship level. Friends, then? He said. And just like that, they were. A couple of years in, she still couldn't decide whether he was gay, straight, or something in between, but they'd never had trouble keeping things platonic, and she figured that alone said something. Speaking of perfect matches, Liza said instead, how's Daniel? How's the husband? Oh, you know, Molly sipped her wine, then squinted and massaged her temple with her free hand. Actually, it was kind of awful when he left this morning. What happened? Grant. Liza smiled at the mention of Molly's 5-year-old. Daniel woke him up to say goodbye, Molly went on. It was almost time for him to get up for school anyway, and he flipped. I mean, really flipped. I'll be back soon, Daniel said, and Grant sobbed, no, you won't. He was hysterical. He kept yelling, you're never coming back, never, over and over. She shivered at the memory. Yikes, those exact words? Those exact words. What did you do? Molly rolled her eyes. Daniel was staring me down, I mean boring into my eyes with this look that said, whatever you do, don't acknowledge this. Just pretend it isn't happening, like I don't know better. I keep hearing Grant's tiny voice in my head, though, Molly continued. He sounded so sure. Do you usually worry about Daniel when he travels? Liza tucked her legs under her, glad of her stretchy yoga pants. A little. Not Liza-style worrying, though, Molly teased. Liza didn't worry about everything all day long, but when something did take hold of her, the worst of her imagination would cling for dear life, keeping her up all night. Few people knew the extent of her almost anxiety, as she called it, and fortunately it usually seemed silly to her even in the morning. Except when it didn't. That's when she knew she was in trouble. She was no longer worrying, she was intuiting. and her intuition was kind of a show-off sometimes. Molly had turned serious. Bad as it sounds, I've actually come to look forward to him being gone. I am never alone. Do we count as alone right now? Liza refilled her wine glass. I mean, are we drinking alone? Oh no, friends don't let friends drink alone. And you're stuck with me, Molly said. The thing about Daniel is... She stopped short and squeezed her eyes tight shut. What? Molly put her finger to her lips. Mommy! The child's voice calling from upstairs was faint, but still Liza jolted at the sound of it. The call came as a demand, not an unkind one, but not a question either. Never fails, Molly sighed, not moving, as if the child might give up and go to sleep, an occurrence even Liza knew had happened roughly 0 times in the history of cared-for children calling out for reasonable things. Mommy! Each syllable got its own sentence this time, and Liza strained to discern which child was calling. Grant would probably just pad on down, which made his little sister the likely culprit. I'm going to give her a minute, Molly said, and see if she gives up. Almost as if on cue, it came again. Mommy! Liza raised an eyebrow. I just wanted one night of peace. Molly looked directly at her, and then to Liza's surprise, there were tears in her eyes. She's relentless. It's like she knows when I'm weak or not feeling well or Daniel isn't home. That's when she strikes. Maybe she's just thirsty? Mommy! Molly shot her a look that conveyed in no uncertain terms what an amateur Liza was. I really don't mind, Liza said. It's not like I'm going anywhere. I can even watch TV till you get back. God help me if it takes that long, Molly said, getting to her feet and bending down to give her a sad smile. Sorry, back in a jiff. Liza looked around at her own quiet living room, debating whether to break the silence after all. She liked it this way, candlelit and serene. It was Molly who'd never liked being alone, who'd been the sort to turn on every light in their old shared apartment when Liza had a date or a late class. She'd play a radio in one room and a TV in the other and pay no mind to the clashing of sounds, which drove Liza mad. For the new Molly to relish solitude was telling, and Liza found herself mustering unexpected sympathy for her friend. If she had turned on the TV or stood to get a glass of water or even flipped through the notifications on her phone, she might have missed it. It was dumb luck that she was staring blankly into the portal of Molly's waiting living room, feeling something akin to relief to discover she was warming after all toward her friend, when the back door swung soundlessly open into Molly's kitchen. Liza jumped. So sudden and so startling was the motion. There in the background, across the stretch of white ceramic tile sprawling behind the couch, gaped an ominous rectangle of darkness. Had a gust of wind blown open the unlatched door? Perhaps one of those feral cats Molly was prone to feeding had come begging and jarred it open. Liza's mind was busying itself to put the pieces of the picture back into place when a tall, broad-shouldered figure stepped through the door. He was dressed head to toe in black, a ski mask tight over his face. Liza's tongue recoiled into her throat with a gasp. Her lungs shuddered mid-breath, terror shooting lightning-quick warning signals from one muscle to the next until she was under its siege, unable to move. He shut the door behind him. Without a glance in her direction, he began to make his way slowly around the kitchenette, his eyes on the hallway through where her friend had just disappeared to go check on the kids. Oh God, the kids. She understood all at once what people meant when they said they were too scared to scream, as everything within her constricted, her veins, her windpipe, her courage. The black-clad figure did not hesitate, did not take stock of his surroundings or stop to get his bearings. He merely headed for that hallway, and Liza realized then that she could not afford to stay frozen. She had to act now. She had to act as if she were there, in the room, because in a way she was. Help! She yelled. His head whipped around as he halted, mid-step. The just visible circles of his eyes fixed themselves on the computer. Leave, she commanded, her voice cracking, shaking, forsaking her. He moved brusquely toward the screen, and Liza's eyes flicked down to her lap where she'd rested her phone. She clutched the smooth rectangle in her fist and thrust it toward the webcam. "I'm calling the police!" She was already crying, willing him to change course, to back out, to slink away. As he stepped closer to the camera, his head disappeared from the frame, then his torso, and in an instant, she was staring at a black pant leg that came to a stop right before her. She dove forward and seized her laptop in both of her trembling hands, lifting it to her face, skimming the hardware for the dots marking the location of the microphone. "Molly!" she screamed into the machine. "Molly! There's a man! He's—" A swift diagonal of darkness sliced down the screen as an unseen hand slapped Molly's laptop closed. The connection went dead. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? Is that not the best idea you have ever heard? I know. I mean, it just is so completely possible. When you think, behind me is a door and you could see anything behind there. And we just hardly think of that. We see so many, stories about, the little kid in the background or the husband in the bathrobe walking through the Zoom call or something like that happening. But the idea of something terrifying hundreds of miles away happening when the person who you're talking to is out of the room that is the total tension. And Jessica Strawser in Forget You Know Me, that is what they call a knockout hook of an opening chapter. So I hope you will run right over. Sharon Doring says, "I'm dying." Michelle says, "Ordered." Well, of course. Run right out, not right now, but in 2 seconds when we're done. And get Forget You Know Me by Jessica Strawser. And again, if you missed this or want to watch it again or want to get a friend to watch it, that would be lovely. Hannah and I are all about bringing a friend here to First Chapter Fun. So that was Forget You Know Me. Al Pessin is saying, "Look out." Isn't that a boy for you? Isn't that a boy? Remind me to tell you what my brother used to do to me on April Fool's Day at some point. Anyway, that was Forget You Know Me by the fabulous Jessica Strawser, and we are so pleased that she allowed us, and St. Martin's, her wonderful publisher, allowed us to read from that today. So next week, what's coming up next? Is another wonderful thriller by a dear friend of all of ours and a dear friend of First Chapter Fund, Jenny Milchman. Do you know Jenny Milchman? She's hilarious, also a Mary Higgins Clark Award winner. And for one of her early books, she took her husband and her kids and drove across country to like 50,000 bookstores, homeschooling her kids along the way. And she has a wonderful family and a wonderful story to tell and a terrific new book called The Second Mother. So we will be, can you see that here on Facebook? So we will be reading from that on Tuesday, and I hope you are here to hear that. And please come watch our videos. Please come share our stories. Please come tell a friend about First Chapter Fun. We love, Hannah Mary McKinnon and I love reading these stories to you, and we hope that you love them too. So it's been such a pleasure this morning. Thank you for listening about my green beans. Thank you for listening to Jessica Strawser's fantastic, spooky and creepy Forget You Know Me. Make sure you watch for the fun facts that we're posting every Sunday about the authors and every Friday about the books, or maybe it's the other way around, but you can look and see, watch our videos. Until then, all of you wonderfuls, stay safe. Stay kind, and we will see you next time on First Chapter Fun. Love you.